rocks on her side of the field. Meanwhile, Tempest goes for a Thunderbolt, but Starmie's holding a Wakanberry. It's gonna have... Hello friends, my name is Frankie, and aren't you glad it's time for another episode of Gotta Drag 'em All? It's only the internet's most iconic crossover series that has the bottom queens of duke it out in a 6v6 Pokemon battle to see who sachets away. Previously on Gotta Drag 'em All, Jaidynn survived her second time in the bottom, which means we saw Max unfortunately sachet away. At this point, Jaidynn is definitely setting herself up to be this season's PokeBattle Assassin. We're coming down to the wire here with only a couple more competitive episodes before our PokeBattle, POKEPARUZA, SmackDown for the Crown grand finale. So make sure you like and subscribe, and who knows, we might have a special guest join us for the finale. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's see how our top 7 queens will fare in episode 8, Conjoined Queens. Now, in the original season, this episode saw the return of our eliminated queens, and one of them had the opportunity to return to the competition. But to keep things moving along around here, I'm not going to be doing that, and instead this will just be a normal elimination episode. In terms of pairs for this episode, I'll try to keep them the same if possible. This means Ginger and Sasha will be a pair, Trixie and Pearl, Katya and Mrs. Kasha Davis, Violet and Max, and Candy and Miss Fame can all remain the same. From here, the queens still competing that aren't in a group yet are Jaidynn and Tempest. Meanwhile, the remaining eliminated queens in our series are Kennedy and Jasmine. So, since Jaidynn and Kennedy were teammates on the Despy Awards originally, I'll put them together as a pair here too, leaving Tempest and Jasmine as the final pair. Originally, Ginger and Sasha were in the bottom for this challenge alongside Jaidynn and Tempest, but unfortunately, I think we would see the pairs of Jaidynn and Kennedy and Tempest and Jasmine as the bottom queens this episode, which means we have a battle between Jaidynn and Tempest coming our way. As this is Jaidynn's third consecutive week in the bottom, we have a really good idea of what her team looks like already. Meanwhile, I already went through why I chose each Pokemon for Tempest's team in episode 1, but if you missed it, go check it out, where she won the first battle of the season against Candy. But we didn't actually dive too much into her Pokemon's stats at that time, so let's do that now. Starting off, we have Alakazam, who has incredible special stats and speed. Combined with the choice specs, Alakazam will be one of Tempest's most offensive but frail Pokemon. Next, we have Oranguru, who is bulkier than Alakazam with a good special defense and HP stat. But don't underestimate it, as it has a special attack stat that's pretty good as well. Inner Focus as an ability means it won't be able to be flinched by moves like Fake Out, which could come in handy versus Jaidynn's team, who actually has 2 Fake Out users. Coupled with an Assault Vest, it'll be an incredibly tanky Pokemon to deal with. Next up is Gumshoes, who as a whole has like the most average base stats ever, but its somewhat high attack stat paired with its ability Strong Jaw and a Choice Band means its moves like Crunch and Fire Fang will be juiced for the gods and do some really respectable physical damage. Next, we have Torkoal, whose main job is to be a sponge for physical damage with its super high defense stat. It's holding a Rocky Helmet, which will help to chip away at physical attackers, and will just generally be a pain to deal with, especially if it's able to set up Stealth Rocks on the field to deal damage to any Pokemon that switches in on the opponent's side. Next, we have Cofagrigus, who is another wall on Tempest's team with a sky-high defense stat and a great special defense stat as well, which, when paired with leftovers, means Cofagrigus will be one tanky boy. And lastly, we have Druddigon, who is a somewhat bulky physical attacker. Paired with a Life Orb and coverage moves like Outrage, Gunk Shot, and Aqua Tail, it'll be able to put out some serious pressure whenever it's on the field. As a whole, this team is actually pretty well balanced, with Gumshoes and Druddigon as powerful physical attackers, Alakazam and Oranguru as some scary psychic special attackers, and lastly, Torkoal and Cofagrigus are her always dependable defensive anchors. And so, Let's see if Tempest will be able to take down Jaidynn, the PokeBattle Assassin herself. Bring back my trainers. Rue, over to you.
Jaidynn Dior Fierce. I'm sorry, my dear, but you are up for elimination. Tempest du Jour. I'm sorry, my dear, but you are up for elimination. 2 sets of conjoined queens stand before me. Ladies, this is your last chance to impress me and save yourself from elimination. The time has come for you to
Pokemon battle.
for your life. Good luck, and don't it up.
Jaidynn leads with Yanmega, while Tempest goes with Torkoal. Not liking this matchup though, Jaidynn immediately switches out into Slowbro as Tempest sets up Stealth Rocks, which will deal damage each time Jaidynn switches a Pokemon in. Tempest herself goes for a switch now and brings in Oranguru, which was great because that Scald did almost nothing. Ludicolo comes in, it's going to eat a Thunderbolt, and it's going to go for a Fake Out now, expecting to flinch Oranguru, but its ability Inner Focus means it cannot flinch, and it goes for another Thunderbolt on Ludicolo. Jaidynn takes this opportunity to get a Toxic off, but Ludicolo is going to go down to that Psychic. Jaidynn sends in Incineroar, who will take some chip damage from Stealth Rocks, and threatens Oranguru out for Torkoal, who's going to actually brush off that attack no problem from Incineroar. Incineroar goes for a U-turn now to switch out, and will take some Rocky Helmet damage in the process. And in comes Slowbro, who actually dodges that overheat from Torkoal. Jaidynn at this point switches Starmie in, while Tempest switches Oranguru in. Jaidynn's actually going to go for a Rapid Spin to get rid of the rocks on her side of the field. Meanwhile, Tempest goes for a Thunderbolt, but Starmie's holding a Wakanberry. It's going to halve the damage of that electric type attack, allowing it to survive. Expecting another Thunderbolt, Jaidynn actually brings in Garchomp, who's immune, and is going to go for a Dragon Claw to take out Oranguru. Tempest brings in Alakazam, and Jaidynn knows a special type attack is coming, so brings in Slowbro, who handles that Dazzling Gleam really, really well. Tempest brings in Gumshoes, expecting that Shadow Ball, and is correct, right? Shadow Ball, Gumshoes is immune to Shadow Ball. It's going to go for a Crunch now on Incineroar, and it's going to switch out at this point as that did not do enough damage. Darkest Lariat hits Torkoal, and it does a little bit of damage, and Torkoal's starting to feel that all these attacks now as it goes for an Overheat on Slowbro, which does almost nothing. Scald is going to end up taking Torkoal out. Tempest brings in Cofagrigus, who's going to eat that Shadow Ball, but it's going to go for a Toxic on Slowbro. We're going to see a little bit of stalling here, I bet, with Cofagrigus going for that Protect. Slowbro goes for a Shadow Ball. It's not going to do anything to a protected Cofagrigus. And it's going to go for a Knockoff next to do a little bit more damage. Shadow Ball actually deals 37% to Cofagrigus, but after leftovers, it'll survive another one. Jaidynn knows this, so switches in Incineroar. And goes for that Darkest Lariat and actually take Cofagrigus out. Mummy is going to transfer to Incineroar at this point, which means no more Intimidate. Darkest Lariat comes in on Druddigon, and down goes Incineroar to that Aqua Tail. And again, Mummy is going to transfer to Druddigon. Jaidynn brings in Garchomp here and goes for a super effective Dragon Claw. It's going to outspeed. And once again, Mummy is going to transfer to Garchomp. Tempest brings in Alakazam, whose Psyshock doesn't do enough damage and is actually going to go down to an Oko from Garchomp. Tempest's last Pokemon is Gumshoes. It's going to take 80% from that Dragon Claw, but it's going to take out Garchomp with that Crunch. Slowbro comes in and gets hit with a Crunch, and again, Gumshoes is bringing this back. But Starmie outspeeds. It's going to get a Scald off and take Gumshoes out, and Jaidynn wins the battle.
Jaidynn Dior Fierce. Shantae, you stay. Tempest du Jour. Sachet away.
Both trainers showed actually amazing foresight to avoid taking any unnecessary damage. Jaidynn by swapping Garchomp in on an incoming electric type attack, and Tempest for switching Gumshoes in on a ghost type attack. I think Tempest played this really well, but honestly Jaidynn is firing on all cylinders and is a well-oiled machine at this point. For me, the MVP of the battle was definitely Garchomp, who got 3 KOs for Jaidynn's team. But with that, we're down to our top 6 queens. And like I mentioned last week, instead of a top 3, I'll be doing a top 4 PokePARUZA Battle Royale SmackDown for the crown. So we're actually down to 2 competitive episodes before that, so don't miss out. Coming back in 2 weeks for episode 9 to see who makes it to the top 5. Okay? Bye!